Henry VIII spent nearly 30 years planning his own tomb. He wanted it to be the greatest royal monument England had ever seen. Huge statues, golden decoration, marble pillars, angels everywhere. Everything about it was designed to make one thing clear. Nobody would ever forget Henry VIII, but if you visit his grave today, you will find something shocking. There is no giant monument, no grand statue, no magnificent tomb, just a simple black stone. So what happened? How did the most famous king in English history lose the tomb he spent decades planning? The story begins long before Henry died. Few kings care more about their image than Henry VIII. He wanted to people remember him as a powerful ruler, a warrior, a king chosen by God, and he believed his final resting place should reflect that. As early as 1518, plans were already being made. At that time, Henry expected to be buried beside Catherine of Aragon. He wanted the finest artist in Europe to work on the project. The tomb would be larger than the one built for his own parents. Nothing about it was meant to be modest. Then came a problem. The artist wanted huge amount of money. Henry argued over the costs. The plans stalled. Years passed, and Henry's life became far more complicated. His marriages changed. His queens changed. His priorities changed, but one thing never changed. He still wanted a spectacular tomb. By 1546, just 1 year before his death, Henry included detailed instruction in his final will. He ordered that he should be buried in St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, and beside him would rest Jane Seymour. Of all 6 wives, she was the one he chose to share his grave. Henry also made it clear that work on the tomb was already underway. He expected it to be completed. Then, in January 1547, Henry VIII died. At first, everything seemed to be following the plan. He was buried at Windsor, exactly where he wanted. But the tomb itself was another matter. The design was enormous. There would have been giant statues, decorated marble structures, dozens of figures, huge angels, and even a massive statue of Henry on horseback. It would have been one of the most impressive royal monuments in Europe. But after Henry's death, reality arrived. His son Edward VI became king. The money was running short. Years of war had drained the treasury. Finishing the tomb was no longer a priority. Then Edward died. Mary I became queen. She showed little interest in completing her father's project. Later, Elizabeth I considered finishing it. New plans were even prepared. But once again, nothing happened. The cost was simply too high, and so the unfinished pieces sat in storage. Years became decades, decades became generation. Then came the English Civil War. Many parts of the planned monument were destroyed. Others were melted down. The great tomb Henry had imagined slowly disappeared, piece by piece, until almost nothing remained. And then came the final twist. The grand stone coffin connected to Henry's burial plans was eventually used for someone else. Not a king, not a Tudor, but Admiral Horatio Nelson. Today visitors can still see it inside St. Paul's Cathedral. Meanwhile, Henry VIII remains at Windsor Castle, buried beneath a simple black slab. No giant monuments, no marble masterpiece, no golden angels. For a king who spent so much of his life controlling how people saw him, it is a remarkable ending. The man who wanted the greatest tomb in England never got one. And perhaps that is the most surprising part of his story.